Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of GodSaw's Turnbuckle, the wrestling video podcast here on YouTube. Audio side wise, we're still working on. I'm still working on where I want to kind of do a hosting thing, and which website's going to be best and everything to go along with that. So, gonna be working on that one and gonna figure that out eventually. Hopefully, before the next pay-per-view, I'll have that figured out of where I want to go and how everything's gonna work on that one. But this episode of GodSaw's Turnbuckle is going to focus around Smackdown Live on August 22nd, 2017, which was a pretty good show. To be honest with you, it was a pretty good show. I did rather enjoy this show. But we'll go right from the beginning. We had AJ Styles starting off the show, basically saying he was going to reinstate the U.S. Open Challenge, waited for his opponent, and it ends up being Kevin Owens. They kind of have a back and forth in terms of promos. Owens saying that he was screwed by Shane at the pay-per-view. This does bring out Shane McMahon, and Owens complains about how the 3 count worked, everything to go along with it. Eventually, you had the bickering between them two get to the point that AJ Styles was like, I've heard enough. If he wants a match, I'll give him his match tonight. But Owens also wanted to pick the referee. He's like, sure, whatever. He was like, sure, whatever, to go along with it. And you end out getting Kevin Owens and AJ Styles and a person of his choosing for a referee, which we see some segments on that one, which I'll talk about actually right now. You had a couple segments with both him and Sami Zayn. First one, he ends up walking up to Sami Zayn. He's like trying to, butter him up and everything to go along with it. They talk about their past and why they were fighting each other and why he felt like he was the only person that actually fit the bill. And he told Sami Zayn to kind of just think about it, that they would be, to go along with everything. So he's like, just think about it. It's probably not the best way to describe it because it was actually a really good segment. I liked how Owens came off. I liked how Zayn came off in this one. Zayn comes up later, says he had thought about it, and it's like, after thinking about everything you had done, everything in that sense, I'm not going to ref this match for you. Not going to happen. So a little bit later on, Owens still finding a ref. This after a few other segments had happened, and I have one more backstage segment to talk right after this before we get to another match to go along with it. He walked up. He runs into Breezango. They're saying they're off-duty fashion police tonight. They're not necessarily going to be in the ring or anything, but they would totally be the referee. Owens just blatantly, loudly refuses them. And as he goes to leave, he's still in that complex area of having to find a ref. Baron Corbin shows up. And Baron Corbin's like, hey, if you give me the first shot at the U.S. title, I'll be the ref. And he's like, okay. Basically gives him the shirt. Interesting to see where they'll be going with Baron Corbin now after his match with Cena. And that failed cash-in from last week as well. He is not looking necessarily the greatest. And he doesn't really come off. Well, he does kind of come off. He comes off as his own person basically throughout this show and everything, because he does. But right before the match, he has a bit with AJ Styles, where he had said, "I have a deal." I like how Corbin just goes up to Styles like, "I blatantly have a deal with Kevin Owens. What do you got?" He said, "Well, answer the chat. If I win, answer the challenge, and you'll have your match. It doesn't matter to go along with it." So I'll leave that for the last portion of the thing with the actual match. So up next, and this happened right after the first segment with Shane, AJ Styles, and Kevin Owens. Daniel Bryan was backstage with the Singh brothers, saying that they bring in Jinder Mahal, and they start having a little chit chat about the whole match on Sunday. Bryan makes mention that Jinder only winning with the Singh brothers' help. Of course, Jinder gets completely angry with that. And Bryan's like, Shinsuke Nakamura needs to have he feels like he needs to have a little bit of retribution. Jinder is going to a point of do I have to face him tonight? No, it's going to be the Singh brothers and a handicap match. I like this one. I ended out liking this one. I thought this was going to be bad initially, but then it just became a total squash match. The Singh brothers just got squashed by Shinsuke Nakamura, not even to the point that they lost with a Kinshasa. He beat them with a triangle chokehold. So new way of Shinsuke Nakamura getting a win as well. After the match, Mahal attacks Nakamura, and Nakamura fends him off and leaves him lying with the Kinshasa. So leads you to believe that they are going to continue on this feud with Shinsuke Nakamura and Jinder Mahal. I've been enjoying Jinder Mahal's work. I'm on that side of, like, he's been pretty good. He's not necessarily the best. He's not necessarily a great promo, but his work has shown. He looks, acts, feels like a champion, everything to go along with it. So I've kind of actually enjoyed Jinder Mahal's work, but I do feel like in the end of this feud, Shinsuke Nakamura needs to have that WWE title, and I think that's what they're going to lead to, whether it be at Hell in a Cell or the pay-per-view after, because let's face it, we all want it to be AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura for the WWE title at like a WrestleMania or a Royal Rumble. We want that big match, especially after the aspect that, you know, for people who have watched it, I have been one of those people, their match in New Japan at Wrestle Kingdom 10 was so freaking good to go along with it. So we want to see that match again, and hopefully WWE gives us that match and kind of gives them the freedom to do kind of their own thing, not necessarily a full-on WWE style in the terms of that match. So back to finally in the ring areas. We have, well, also with the match with Shinsuke Nakamura as well. That was in-ring stuff as well. But this one, I think, actually happened after the Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn first segment. Aiden English is in the ring. He starts doing his typical song. And lo and behold, he gets interrupted by the debuting glorious Bobby Roode. And it made me feel like, it's like, wait a minute, are they going to play him off as a face? It makes it feel like they're playing him off as a face because he's playing up to the crowd, everything in that sense, through the entrance, the crowd singing it. The match itself, the one sad thing was that it went right to commercial break right at the beginning of the match. Not their typical commercial break where you don't see the action. It's one of the Smackdown ones where the ads play, but in the corner you get to see the action still. The match itself was decent. It was a good showcasing match for Bobby Roode, but also wasn't a squash. It wasn't like, oh, they just squashed Aiden English for any reason to go along with it. Afterwards, Bobby Roode had an interview with Renee Young, and that's where you kind of see his heel tendencies. And the basic line that kind of shows heel tendencies. He says he would like to thank Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan for breaking the bank to get him on SmackDown. So saying that they paid massive money for him. That's kind of heelish to go along with it. So we'll see how long it takes for him to kind of be a full-fledged heel, and what his first program will end up being on the main roster to go along with everything. So again, there was a lot of talking on this one. The more I look at it, the more I see talking. A lot of talking. You had a segment backstage with Daniel Bryan and Chad Gable, where they were talking about, you know, how Jason Jordan got moved over to Raw. Chad Gable says, like, that's all people want to talk to me about is all that and everything, and he has to worry about his own career. And Bryan was like, well, the deal was that I would give him Jason Jordan, but Kurt Angle would help me sign one of his good friends. And in came Shelton Benjamin. Shelton Benjamin's back. Should have happened a year ago, but he had the rotator cuff or the bicep injury, which prevented the WWE from signing him. But they have signed him now, and he is back. And Daniel Bryan's going to team up him and Chad Gable. You see a little bit of reluctance from Shelton Benjamin, but it's one of those bits of we'll see how they play this off, and maybe they play it off as maybe Shelton Benjamin's going to come back as a heel or something like that, or maybe he gets Chad Gable to go heel with him or to go along with it. We'll see how this one plays off. It should be an interesting one. And I'm just glad to see Shelton Benjamin back. I was a big fan of his way back when. And it's just good to see him back in there. And and for what I've heard, I haven't seen a lot of his matches in the independent scene or in Ring of Honor, but if he's anything like he was, if he was still capable of doing anything like he was doing, we should be good. We should be good in the terms of everything on that sense. So let's see here. What was next? Yes, you had the Hype Bros and the Usos. This was a decent match. The Usos go over. The interesting note, really, of this match was you have that continuous tension between the Hype Bros. It wasn't actually shown in the terms of the match, but it's shown in the fact that Zack Ryder had different ring gear from Mojo Rawley. So they're kind of playing off that a little bit more, and it almost leads me to believe that they will be doing a Zack Ryder heel turn. But I wouldn't be shocked if it ends up being like a Mojo Rawley one, because, you know, in the end, Zack Ryder keeps getting pinned in all these matches. So it'll be interesting to see where everything ends up going. I think that's how it's been going. Like, it's mostly been Zack losing the matches. I'm not 100% certain on that one. That's just how I feel, or that's how they could play it off, or something in that sense. After the match, Usos cut a promo, basically saying this is the Usos' penitentiary, all that kind of good jazz. I've always been a fan of the Usos, but since their heel turn, their character work, I've been becoming a fan of. I was always a fan of their in-ring work. They've done really good work on the microphone since this heel turn, and it's just come off really good in that sense of it. So up next we have Becky Lynch and Naomi going up against Carmella and Natalya. Natalya and Carmella cut promos before this match starts. Natalya basically says she's going to be a fighting champion, brings prestige back to the title, everything to go along with that. Of course, Carmella teasing cashing in Money in the Bank at any given time, even to the point that Ellsworth kind of gives away the plan, and they still try to execute the plan in the match. Ellsworth says it's like, maybe she won't tag in, maybe she'll let you get beat up. Carmella's like, shut up, to go along with it. And of course, since this happens, they could not coexist in this one, and they actually do try that game plan out where Carmella doesn't want to tag in anything in that sense once she gets out of the ring, and it just eventually causes Naomi and Becky to get a win after Natalya catches Carmella like distracted, and she gets the tag in. Naomi brings in Carmella and eventually hits the split-legged moonsault to get the victory, so it backfired on him. Up next, you had Dolph Ziggler backstage returning, and I actually kind of like how he did this one. It's like, yes, Dolph Ziggler returns in a backstage interview, and he just like starts mocking everything. He's like, I figured out how to become a star, and mocks everybody else is saying, like, he says needs to get a robe, get like glow in the dark and dance, and or have somebody by his side, and he was going to do that next week. He was going to do something next week. So it'll be interesting to see if they have him kind of just mock everybody, or something in that sense. It'll be interesting to see what they end up playing off with Dolph Ziggler on this one. I actually did kind of like this segment. I thought it came off pretty decent. So let's see here. Actually, before the main event, you had another. Yeah, there was a little fly there for a brief second. You had Tamina walk in, and you had a Tamina and Lana segment backstage, and Lana basically gets her ready to be like dominant. She tells like Tamina what people say about her and how she just blends into the background, and she wanted her to like shut her eyes and grasp all that rage and bottle it up, and it's like, and at the end it's like, okay, now you're ready. So basically you're gonna get Tamina next week. It'll again, that'll be an interesting one. So you have Tamina, who's not really good on the mic. You have Lana, who is. So they wanted to put Lana in the ring. She wasn't all that good. Well, I mean, literally, she wasn't all that good. So they kind of brought her back into the managerial role. But she's going to be managing Tamina, who, from everything I've always seen, has always been pretty decent in the ring. Just really hasn't had mic skill. So it's kind of, you have mic skill with Lana, and you have someone who can talk with Lana, and you have Tamina who can actually work in the ring. It works together. You have the talker be the manager, wrestler be the wrestler. Okay, it works. Hopefully it ends out working. We'll see how it ends out playing off. So this leads into the main event, which was AJ Styles versus Kevin Owens. Baron Corbin, special guest referee. Oh my God, I wish they would just let these two have a match that doesn't have a screwy finish. So basically Baron Corbin kind of favors Baron Corbin, favors Kevin Owens in a couple of instances in the match and everything. This eventually brings out Shane McMahon, who basically berates Corbin for being or having a bias towards Kevin Owens, everything in that sense. And they have an argument where Kevin Owens is trying, or not Kevin Owens, but Shane and Corbin are back outside after Shane pulls out Corbin from doing a 3 count because Corbin had been doing fast counts, everything in that sense throughout the match for Kevin Owens. And Corbin's like, "You want a ref? You want a ref? Here." And he just leaves. Just leaves. Quits it. And I love how Kevin Owens is like, "Corbin, come back! Come back!" And of course Shane takes his place, which eventually leads to AJ Styles hitting the phenomenal forearm, getting the victory. So now this basically ends the feud. This ends the feud. We didn't have one without a screwy finish. We didn't have a single match without a screwy finish. Like, just them two, no ref shenanigans, no nothing. I want that match at some point in time where they have no shenanigans and no weird finishes or anything in that sense. But now you got to kind of wait until AJ, who's going to be seemingly going to be doing these U.S. Open challenges on a weekly basis. So we got to wait till AJ ends out losing until that could potentially happen again, if they're even going to go back to that feud. It would be interesting to see if his feud's going to be with Baron Corbin or somebody else, or is it going to be a thing where AJ Styles is going to have this open challenge. Of course, Owens technically can't answer it, but he tries to continually screw AJ out of his matches or something in that sense. It'll be interesting to see how they play that off. I just wish they would have let these guys have one match that just didn't end awkwardly in some way, shape, or form. It just felt like all these matches could have been, they were all good by every stretch of the imagination, but they weren't given to the point to it had potential for being so much more, but because they decided to go with screwy finish after screwy finish after screwy finish after screwy finish, this feud didn't really come off all that well. At least to me, it didn't, and I think to a few other people, to some other people as well. Actually, probably a lot of people in some cases. I just wish it could have been better. It wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. The matches were actually kind of good. It was just all screwy finishes. So that's pretty much all I have for Smackdown this week. Overall, I thought it was a pretty decent show. I like this. I did kind of like the interaction with Corbin and Shane and everything in that sense. It's just one of those things you kind of wish they would have let Kevin Owens and AJ Styles have a match that didn't end in a screwy finish. But overall, that match was actually enjoyable. Like I said, I like the stuff with Corbin and Shane, and then of course, Owens freaking out as Corbin was leaving was really good as well. They did some good stuff in here. I think it's just one of those things that I wish they would have had a proper finish to one of the matches instead of having some kind of overbooked finish or something to go along with it. So yeah, but overall, I mean, you got 2 debuts. Bobby Roode's on SmackDown. Shelton Benjamin's back. I'm really happy to see those guys. Jinder Mahal and Shinsuke Nakamura is going to continue on, it looks like. So hopefully that leads to Shinsuke actually gaining the belt at some point in time, which would hopefully lead to him and AJ Styles at a pay-per-view. I really want that match again. I really do. But yeah, with that being said, I thank everybody who tuned in and decided to watch. Again, thank you guys for watching, and have a great rest of your day.